Yes. Okay. So this week's session is actually held from the Seattle, Washington. So it's like 4 a.m. in the morning as of now. So sorry about the even more confusing or if it sounds that hey that person is probably a bit tired, that's true because he's been flying here for last 20 hours or something. But nevertheless, this week topic is technically easy, but from the kind of usage point of view, I would say very important, which and why and when it's important. It's when you have a fabric or you have a big fabric workflow or environment, and you still do in Azure Data Factory some things. And as of today, it may be that it's a bit distant or separated, or I don't know what English word to use there, but kind of it's not as continuous. It's not tightly integrated because something is happening completely elsewhere. And now it's a possibility within a Fabric workspace. If I just manage to go there, yeah, closing Discord. And we will probably face some errors because I don't know why, but there was some errors happening on the demo, which I ran like 30 minutes ago, and everything worked perfectly, and now they didn't. But there is preparation. Where was it? Not track data, but on the here, prepare data. There's a new option in Fabric Workspace for Azure Data Factory, mounting Azure Data Factory. It will ask from all the data factories you have access to, and you will click and enable the data factory you choose to mount. You can only mount it once. So now this was my practice. This was my Finnish demo, and now I'm running out of data factories to mount in this English session. If the data factory has some features enabled that it makes it impossible to mount, it will be grayed out. But kind of I could check tick box ticks and then click OK, and it will mount this data factory into my Fabric workspace. And here I have done that in that Finnish version, this one. And here when opening that, it's just the Azure Data Factory, but like in the iframe or something that it's the same service. If you click Add Activities, they are the same only in Azure Data Factory. Kind of those functions or activities that are available only in Azure Data Factory and not in Fabric Data Factory are here. On the other hand, you don't have Fabric notebooks, for example, because you have Synapse notebooks, because in Azure Data Factory you cannot execute Fabric notebooks. So this is the user interface for using Azure Data Factory inside Fabric. It's not kind of migration story or something like that. But all the functionality that is in a Azure Data Factory is available here. So you can, for example, create new data flows, Spark in data flows, or however Azure Data Factory data flows, whatever these are being called. And here, as this is only a user interface for Azure Data Factory, you can you can click all the sources available in Azure Data Factory. And then this one was the same error we got from the registered resource provider not found. Oh, I don't understand it. I don't understand why the heck it worked. It used to work and now it doesn't. But I could connect to the Azure SQL as in the Azure Data Factory, and then I could do my transformations and put the data to the destination. But it's Azure Data Factory, so not directly to one lake or something like that, because it's not available in the Azure Data Factory. But as said on the Finnish version, where would you use this? Is that if you have kind of items that you would or sorry, if you are using task flows on your documentation or in your workspace, you could use also task flows to include the Data Factory, Azure Data Factory objects in here in the relevant section, like in the get data section or something like that. So kind of if you are heavily using Fabric Workspace for doing your data processing and handling, and you want to include Azure Data Factory as a kind of more integrated part, it's not migrated, but more integrated part of your workflow, this would be the kind of way to do it. Then you get it in the same user interface, and you can do, if you use task flows, you can integrate kind of let's put this one, for example, in there, so you can kind of document the workflow from end to end, also including the Azure Data Factory. This one is like an iframe, so it's not a way to go around the user rights, for example. So here I have another another user, which on the Azure doesn't have access to that data factory. So then if that person opens within the workspace, this is the same workspace, he or she can see the data factory object, but when trying to open the object, it will say that, hey, you don't have access to that because in the Azure I have not given permissions to this user to access the data factory. So kind of that it's not a way to proxy, or it's not a way to kind of reinvent the user privileges model or something like that. You have to have an access to the actual resource because that's only a link or like an iframe or something like that for the resource. Good. That's all I have today, and now I said it's 4:25 a.m. so I will go back to sleep.